maybe 30% will be good, and the rest will be hoverers and will be retrieving crash quads all day long. That was not the case. I got to tell you, I was absolutely impressed. It was full stick. If they were crashing, I've never seen so many recoveries in my entire life.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 101. Is drone racing the next collegiate sport? If you ask today's guest, he would probably say it's all but written in the books. Todd Wahl is the president of MultiGP, the premier FPV racing league uniting pilots across the globe in casual and competitive events. Todd is a lifelong entrepreneur and technologist who sold his technology consulting company to focus full-time on growing MultiGP's FPV sports. He has been involved in drone racing for years, having organized and managed Atlanta's Drone Racing Club, and working to involve people at all levels of the sport. Todd is here to talk about MultiGP, the current state of drone racing, the MultiGP Drone Championship, and how drone racing could very well become the next organized college sports sensation. But before we hear from Todd, if you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider joining my Patreon fundraising campaign. The show is always free, but there are production costs, and Patreon provides an easy way for listeners to support the show. Go to patreon.com/drone radio show to contribute. But for now, let's get to today's guest and hear how MultiGP continues to advance the sport of drone racing. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Todd to introduce himself.
I'm Todd Wahl. I'm with MultiGP. I'm the president, newly hired president from September 2016. And I'm pretty much working side by side with Chris Thomas, the founder and CEO, trying to proliferate FPV drone racing across the world.
Is the position of president new, or has there always been a president of MultiGP?
No, there hadn't ever been a president. It was always Chris Thomas as president and CEO and founder. So he relinquished the president role to me, knowing that he can't be in many places at one time, and he needs somebody to kind of hold down the fort when he was traveling a good bit. He's really that FPV drone racing ambassador that everybody knows, the face of MultiGP. I like to think of myself as kind of the behind-the-scenes guy that helps support him while he's doing good for drone sports.
Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing what he's been able to do with MultiGP, from where it began to where it is today.
Without a doubt. I mean, currently we've got over 16,000 registered pilots with over 1,000 registered chapters worldwide. Just a year ago, it was less than half that.
So what does the role of president entail? What do you do in that position?
It's also considered the chief operations officer. So I'm really kind of entrenched in the operations of the organization. It's really working like a startup, right? So we're still trying to flesh out roles and responsibilities for certain folks. I'm one of the full-time folks that have come on board to focus in on sustainability of the league and growth, really.
The last time we spoke, you described what it was like to run and manage one chapter in the MultiGP lineup. Can you give us a sense of where drone racing is today, and especially what you see as president when you look out across the total landscape?
It's super exciting for me, I got to say. We're in a better position today than we've ever been before. You know, drones in general have proliferated through the stores, the Best Buys, the online. DJI has helped that out a good bit. And then we've got folks like DRL, DR1 that have spots on television that are promoting drone racing, which helps the sport, you know, people to pique their interest, those that are curious, enthusiasts that would like to possibly race. And so that sets us up, because the thing about MultiGP is the grassroots component of it has more races in more places than any other organization on earth, with a large focus here in the U.S. And so when they go watch it on TV, they can actually go experience it in person. And there's nothing like seeing a live drone race in person. Those drones going 60, 80, 90 miles an hour on a straightaway with that high-pitched sound that, to me, is reminiscent of Formula One, just a little higher pitch, though, than those standard engines as they turn and bob and weave through the course and the obstacles. And for those enthusiasts and those that are curious, it's our job to kind of take them past the threshold of, hey, you can do this. If you've got video gaming experience or you got RC experience, or if you don't have any experience at all, simulators are out there. Being able to put your hand on a drone at one of these local chapter races is something that happens every weekend, in the hopes that they'll connect with a local chapter, start to fly, and then maybe, hopefully, our end goal is for them to compete.
I remember from previous conversations that MultiGP was headed towards a format to produce a national champion. How is that effort going?
It's going great. So we not only run the largest participation of chapters and pilots in the world as far as drone sports in general, but we also organize and execute the world's largest drone racing series, which we're full into right now. We've got the U.S. Drone Racing Championship Series going on right now. We got 14 different districts or regions that are in the U.S. that we split up, usually 3-4 states, sometimes one state, depends on participation level. And all the clubs and chapters, those thousands of pilots that are out there, are putting together a qualifier right now. We're in the midst of it right now. Every other weekend, well, I would say every weekend, really, U.S.-wide, there's a qualifier going on right now that you as an individual can go and actually either attend in person to experience an FPV drone race in person and the excitement about it, the adrenaline rush of being a spectator, or you can actually be a pilot in it. And it costs little to no money to participate. Usually it's $10 to $20 to register for a qualifier. And it's up to 32 pilots, give or take. I think we got a few that are at like 45 that will compete for top 5 positions to move on to what they call the regional finals, which will culminate at each region in the coming weeks right before our championship. That qualifies them for the championship. So we literally are the only organization worldwide that literally puts these pilots through a grinder. They can't be one-shot wonders. They have to have speed, agility, and skill with consistency, rank high, top 5 positions to make it through to a chance to compete and win for the championship, which is going to happen in Vegas in October.
How do pilots qualify for the finals?
Generally speaking, they do 7 qualifiers to the top 5 of each qualifier make it to the regional finals. From there, we send one pilot who's the top pilot from each region. They're guaranteed to be in as a pre-qualified pilot to race in the championship. Now, the top 5 have a chance to go and qualify on site still. And then we even have a third way that allows for maybe some folks that weren't able to make qualifiers. We call it kind of like a last chance qualifier, but they have to demonstrate their speed, agility, and skill by beating out whatever the top ranked pilots are on our universal time trial course, which they can go and do that at any local chapter. It has to be an official local chapter, tier 1, 2, or 3, that can basically sanction and qualify that pilot. But that's a tougher road. That is a tougher road. I mean, literally.
So by the time you get to Vegas, you hope to have how many pilots on the slate?
There'll be around 60 pilots, give or take, that will boil down to the top 16. And then what we'll do is double elimination on the top 16 down to the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So the podium spots. Sean Taylor, his nickname's Night Fury, has been a 2-year championship winner each year. So we've been doing it 2015, 2016. So he's one to watch for 2017. But there's a lot of young guns that got a target on his back, without a doubt. And they're getting faster and faster. He's the old school guy, right? He's the seasoned pro. And there's some young guns that have only been around for months and are killing it with times on the UTT courses, placement on qualifiers. So he's got to stay on top of his game. And he just went full time, literally, a couple months ago. He's a former firefighter in Texas. So he's kind of put his best foot forward and got some good sponsorship and has been winning some purses. So it'll be an interesting year this year. I think it'll be most competitive than it's ever been. It's growing like crazy.
And when will the finals be held?
The regional finals can happen up to 45 days prior to the championship, and the championship is going to be about mid-October. Most of those regional finals will happen into July, beginning August.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. Let's turn our attention back to MultiGP for a moment. Tell us about the people who are joining MultiGP. Are these people who are new to the sport of drone racing, or are they seasoned racers?
Hey, every time we do a local race, when I do one as DRC, or if we do a large race with MultiGP as a sanctioning body, or a large production prize purse race like Sebring that we did down at the airport down in Florida, it's always new people stepping up saying, this is incredible. How do I get started and what do I buy? Every single time. So, and my advice to them is start off small, work your way up, or get on a simulator so you can crash virtually and not spend a whole lot of money. Wear your teeth, see if you're outfitted for it. Some people can't deal with the motion aspect of having the VR goggles on their head while they're controlling something in real life. Doing the simulator kind of virtually helps them kind of train their mind into, hey, look, I'm not actually in this, and can overcome that, if they do have that motion sickness issue. That's probably the biggest challenge, right, is feeling like they're in the cockpit while they're zipping and swaying and flipping sometime.
Does MultiGP recommend a simulator that people should try?
I think at this point, we're not necessarily promoting one specific one. There's several out there that are great. FPV Events, DRL's got one, and several other ones.
They can just do a search for simulator, right?
Yeah, exactly. FPV Drone Racing Simulator. Drone Racing Simulator is probably the best thing.
From your perspective, over the past couple of years, what has gotten better about drone racing and the entire racing experience?
The technology's evolving. The power to weight ratio has what we assume is pushing the limits, but every time I turn around, somebody's surprising us with faster, more nimble quads, different type of designs on frames. We've gone from H-frame, I-frame to X-frame to Stretch X, innovation in motors. And I think the biggest barrier to our next level is battery, right? When you think about a racing drone, you got to think about the powertrain. It's propeller, technology related to propeller, the motors themselves, it's the ESC, and it's primarily the battery. Those four pieces really determine the performance aspect. Now, the flight controller plays a part in that as well, but not so much on the power to weight ratio, So drones were averaging anywhere from 40 to 60 miles an hour. We're pushing 80 miles an hour plus, in certain scenarios. But you got to temper that. That's the problem is they're getting faster, they're getting lighter, but you can burn up your battery too quick. And we're running a race that's a 2-minute race or a 2.5-minute race on a particular course that's designed to challenge at speed, agility, and skill. You've got to sometimes pull back the reins a little bit. Otherwise, you'll see the end of your battery before you see the end of the finish line. And so that's where we're seeing more innovation from the pilot skill standpoint, is knowing when you punch it, knowing when you hold back, working your lines, more complex courses as well, which has been interesting. So to give you an example, we did the first ever FAA sanctioned open air drone race that was not encaged, which was right next to an active control tower runway during a air show down at Sebring Sport Aviation Air Show beginning of this year, which actually went off without a hitch. And I was nervous as can be, being the president of the MultiGP. And there's a dozen FAA officials really fine-tooth combing our whole setup, because big fear factor about drones is out there. But we did the first ever drone race, like I said, open air, next to an airport, control tower, next to an air show. But we put the spectators and the pilots in the middle of the course. And that had never been done before. Literally, we took a skeleton of a large 30 by 40 tent and put netting all around it. And the course actually wrapped around that, went over the top of it. So the people that sat inside the middle of the course or in the middle of that tent got an intimate perspective on that drone pilot, and they could see their TV feed right there. So they could associate, well, I see him there wearing the goggles and the controllers, watching his hands twitch and seeing what he's doing on the screen. And I actually can follow literally, because I'm in the middle of the course, I can follow where that drone is from a third-person perspective. It was a super hit, and there's nothing like being feet from a drone that's running 60, 80 miles an hour, whizzing past you, giving you that excitement of fighting for position. That was unique and unusual. So I think race course design, technology, pilot skill really rise into the top. We're going to see more innovation coming down the tubes here soon, too, with the advent of HD technology.
Is that close to being a reality?
It's actually here. One of the frequent partners with MultiGP is Amazon, who's known for developing HD wireless systems for television, movie, and drones, right? Well, they've decided to get into the drone racing market and come up with a product called Connex ProSight. It's not exactly the cheapest video transmission solution and camera, but it's certainly the best quality overall, with a 720p or a little less in quality or higher, depending on the setting that you set up. We saw a few pilots flying that at the Sebring race at the beginning of this year. More and more pilots are picking it up, The more you can see, the better decisions you can make. If you look at an analog feed at high speed, it's sometimes tough to know where the gate starts and stops. You know what I mean? Or the line should be, and really giving you depth of field, the HD does, more so than anything else. So it's interesting. They've actually produced a ready-to-fly quad, which we're saying, hey, you know what? You're looking to get started? This is a great quad. We call it the DJI Racer because it's like a Phantom because it's got sonar on the bottom. So you can set it to kind of the training wheels mode. It's a racer. It looks cool too, by the way. But you can set it to a mode that allows you to keep it above the ground at a set height. So you don't have to deal with throttle control to ensure your altitude, which is the biggest issue, right? People, when they pitch forward or roll, they tend to not have that coordination of throttle control, when they turn. So they either follow the sky or they go too high. So it's a great beginner from that standpoint as far as a full size. Matter of fact, I was always kind of apathetic about my son, who's 9 years old, flying a full size one. He'd always flown the ultra micros all day long, but I'm always angst and nervous about flying a full size racer. Well, he flew it like it was nothing. He's got a little bit of stick time, but I've put it in the hands of people who've never flown it before or never flown anything drone wise, and they're able to even go through air gates. So.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
How about the business side of things? What's changed most over the past couple of years, and how's it affected the whole experience?
Okay, so as far as business end is concerned, well, we're getting more interest from non-endemic type of folks, folks that are not central to drones, which is good. Like the Collegiate race, we had Amazon sponsor that race, actually, which was cool. We've had restaurants and dealerships and things like that are not necessarily drone related start to sponsor races or show interest in being associated with races. So it's starting to pique people's interest, I think. And I really think it has to do with not only YouTube and online social media, but the DRL and DR1s out there on the public television piquing people's interest.
What can you tell us about the crowds that are coming out to watch the races?
MultiGP has been involved in a lot of maker fairs in and around the U.S. The example that I can use is we literally had 3 people deep on about a soccer field size course all the way around shoulder to shoulder on a Saturday and a Sunday at our maker fair this last year here in Atlanta, which equated to probably 6,000 to 8,000 people on that one day that came through and watched a drone race. So we find that more of the crowds are at mainstay events where drone racing is a sideshow. And I think that's part of the operational maturity or the maturity of the sport itself, which is a good entry point for us, to be honest with you. But just to give you an example, I did a race just recently with a local AMA club. Just did advertising, hey, spectators welcome. And we ended up with, on one event, we had over 180 spectators show up, and in another event, 120, which is not too shabby for a local club at an AMA field that's literally 30 minutes from anywhere. So that's not too bad. And that's what we're trying to do more of as far as MultiGP is concerned is, I don't know if you know what our mantra is, but it's pilots first. And we know we got to pay homage to sponsors. without a doubt. But, right next to sponsors, what's important for us this year and setting the stage for 2018 is going to be spectators or the enthusiast or the fan, right? We got to create the fandom if the sport's going to catch fire and exponentially grow beyond where we're at.
So tell us about the Collegiate Drone Racing National Championship. Sounds like drone racing is starting to make its way into established networks.
Yeah. So a couple months ago, we got wind of the Purdue Drone Club trying to organize a drone race. And MultiGP is an organization, and I don't know if you remember me mentioning in my last podcast, but the DRC had worked with Georgia Tech on establishing a drone racing component to one of their UAV clubs. And actually, Nick Willard, who's one of the top ranked pilots in the world, is a member of that group at Georgia Tech. The biggest thing that was missing, though, is participation of the other colleges out there. And so MultiGP as an organization had said, hey, let's try and get more and more participation. Let's figure out how these clubs can be established and be maintained as official bodies, right? Social clubs or intramural or activity style clubs at schools, which is a little tricky in some areas. So once we heard about the Purdue thing, we called them up and said, hey guys, where are you at with this? We've been planning on doing a intercollegiate type of competition in some sort. How far along are you? We kind of game plan together. We found a good partnership with Tyler Landers, who's the president of the Purdue Drone Club, Justin Sutcliffe, who's the vice president, and Owen Crook, who's the secretary. Those guys took the bull by the horns and literally pulled in 27 colleges and universities to participate with 47 pilots. Literally, they had to turn away people. We helped on logistical side because they had not ever done a large-scale drone race. So we brought technology, we brought the race management solution to the table, we brought our experience to the table. And so what we did was helped bring in funding for that through sponsorship, both non-endemic and endemic sponsors. I believe we raised, I can't remember what the total value is, more than $15,000 in prize or contribution to that particular event to make it happen. So they could give away across the board to every club that participated, plus the winners, some sort of kind of kickoff to their club to, when they left that event, go back and reinvest in their club and get more participation going through, having pieces and parts of drones or e-gift cards or something like that they could use to help their club out.
And students from 27 universities converged on Purdue, and everything was done on a single weekend. Is that right?
Yeah, it was done on April 15th. Most of them arrived the 14th, where we had established the track and done some racing and pre-qualifying. A good 50% didn't have full teams, but the other 50% had 2 or more participants, which would constitute a team for us, right, on that front, as far as ranking and points tracking. So we did a competition that would rank the school as a team and individuals on their own speed, agility, and skill talent, right? Which to me, I got to be honest with you, I was absolutely flabbergasted. Coming into this, I was thinking, okay, man, we never heard any of these kids. Some of them we had heard of. Actually, some of them had competed in multi-GP events, and we saw some notoriety there. Nick Willard was one of them. He's one of the top-ranked guys. MV Astro and a few other ones out there. But I was thinking that, you know what, maybe 30% will be good, and the rest will be hoverers and we'll be retrieving crash quads all day long. That was not the case. I got to tell you, I was absolutely impressed. It was full stick, very little hovering whatsoever. These guys were, if they were crashing, I've never seen so many recoveries in my entire life that rival some of the pro races. I mean, these guys, if they did crash out, they didn't give up, which was awesome. We actually had a female participant, too, that unfortunately didn't make it to the finals, but she did real well.
How did Purdue University handle hosting this first-time event?
Purdue rolled out the red carpet, man. They supplied tents. They funded this thing like it was a full-on part of the sports department. I mean, no holes barred. Like I said, Tyler, Justin, and Owen, absolutely. Those guys are going to be great business guys when they get, when they graduate, whether they're going into drones or not. But they were on point, organizationally wise, executing. So what we tried to do is we tried to kind of sit behind the scenes and try and enable them. So the first day of practice, we literally kind of trained them on here's how this kind of race needs to happen. They pretty much ran all the practice rounds by themselves with us doing back-end support and technology support. Now on race day, because they were competing themselves, we kind of had to take over certain positions at certain times. But for the most part, the Purdue Drone Club was organizer and host, and they did excellent for being a first-time event of this size. They killed it. They set the bar so high, it's going to be tough for anybody else to come close to that.
Okay, so let's get to the meat of things. Who walked away with the top awards?
Yeah, so the results ended up being Ivan Rodriguez was number one. That guy killed it. He was consistent. I mean, he literally was doing either fastest laps or top position on every heat, with the exception when he got into what we call the double elimination round, where the 16 gets bowled down into final four kind of thing. He ended up in the loser's bracket once just because he crashed out and couldn't recover. He ended up on his lid upside down. But other than that, he really didn't crash. If he did bump, he would recover real quick. Corey Ibanez was second. So let me tell you, Ivan Rodriguez, he's from University of Texas, Arlington. Corey Ibanez, University of California at Santa Cruz. Nick Willard represented Georgia Institute of Technology. He was third place. David Dominguez, UC Berkeley. We even had the U.S. Air Force Academy represented by fifth place Brett Bixler. And Kevin Fine was sixth place with Bucknell University. Noah Ghali, University of Oklahoma. Chris Wang, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Ninth place is Eric McKinney, who is from Oklahoma State University. And 10th place was Seth Abeldinger from Georgia Institute of Technology. Now, as far as the team rankings are concerned, a little bit different stretch on that. We ended up with first place by and large, the team total being 100 points at Georgia Institute of Technology. And that was because Abeldinger and Willard ended up in the finals at a point. So their points quantified by tenfold kind of thing. You know what I mean? So a distant second was UC Berkeley at 67 points. And then we had a tie for third place with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University of Daytona and Purdue University, the host, for third place. And we did a tiebreaker, which was kind of cool. We did a foot race between the the pilots from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University of Daytona and Purdue, and the Embry-Riddle folks took it away with the foot race. That's how we broke the tie, just for fun. The other cool thing that we did that we'll do as a tradition is we take the winner and the top 7 pilots after him, put them all back out on the course after all said and done, and the winner has to fly the course backwards while all 7 other participants fly the course forward, and the first one to take him out is the winner of what's called the gauntlet, is what we call it, which is fun. And our buddy, his name is Envy Astros, what I know him as, but Ivan Rodriguez, he almost made it to the last lap until I think Brett Bixler took him out. It was interesting to see that footage on DVR.
What's your sense on where this might go at the collegiate level? Do you think this might become an organized sport?
Without a doubt. So we've got the framework already. We've already done a post-production meeting on the champs. We've got a tried and true method with our regional series that culminates into a championship. It's worked great. It's actually the only one in the world that of this scale. So we're going to apply the best practices of that type of rules and regulations to the collegiate series for 2018. So ultimately, we'll be posting a form online here in the coming weeks where colleges can kind of inquiry about being a part of the 2018 collegiate series. And we're thinking that the seasons will run from fall semester of this year till spring semester of next year. And we'll probably follow the same regional splits that we've got already, mainly because the demographic and population aspect feeds very well into it. And we notice that the university system feeds well into it. So there's 14 regions nationwide. We'll still rank based on pilot as an individual, speed, agility, and skill, and teams as a whole. And basically their placement and participation in 5 points-based events in each region will determine their qualification for the 2018 championship. We'll be divulging more details on the rules in the coming weeks, but there's a huge amount of interest already, and we haven't even released it.
Now, Todd, you've been involved with drone racing, mostly from the organizational side, for several years. What do you get most out of the whole operational end of things?
I live vicariously through through the pilots having a good time, honestly. You know what I mean? I initially went into it thinking, hey, I'm going to be able to fly more. You know what I mean? No, you're an organizer and a behind-the-scenes guy. You don't get to fly more. So that theory kind of went out the door. But I find myself enjoying pats on the back from the pilots saying, man, that was an incredible race, or great job in the production, you know, or that was the best race I've ever attended as far as workflow is concerned, or as excitement is concerned, or position of the pilots or the spectators is concerned. So that's what really fuels my fire. And knowing that I'm a part of something that is kind of new and edgy a little bit, right? You know, something that's technologically kind of groundbreaking as far as a sport is concerned. There's no other sport like it, right? You know, having the virtual and the reality component mixed together, there's nothing like it. Esports parallels it to a certain degree. And the only other thing that comes close to me is motocross in a way, as far as the adrenaline aspect. So it's an amalgamation of esports and motocross to me. It's an exciting place to be in. I mean, it really is. As a participant, as a organizer, I would encourage anybody that wants to at least experience drone racing. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. You can become a pilot, and that's great. There's an expense for that. You can become a spectator. There's really no expense for that, for sure. You can become an organizer or a volunteer and be involved, or a sponsor. So there's a lot of different levels, and they all seem to be growing right now.
That's great, Todd. Is there anything that we missed that we should talk about?
Well, the AMA partnered with us on the sanctioning of that event. They're a great partner of MultiGP, so I want to give them a shout out for sure. And we live streamed it. I think you interviewed Chris Toombs, who's the producer of FPVLive.tv. He was there capturing the history live, and we got it in the books and online forevermore. So if you want to go check it out at FPVLive.com, you can see the recap. It's pretty neat. As far as the future, I think 2018 is going to be higher production level experiences. We're looking to grow the participation at the regional finals and the production level of the regional finals. So this year will be kind of a proving ground. Like, just to give you an example, my region, which I'm normally the organizer for, but I hand it over to another club, but I'm still helping out. We've teamed up with the Peachtree City. The city council folks, the tourism board there is come on board as a sponsor to host our Region 2A Finals, which is going to be a 3-day event. It's going to be an FPV drone racing experience type of event, and they're investing thousands of dollars into it. So we're seeing more and more tourism boards, civic centers, venues offering free venues to bring that to their town, to their city, to their location. And I think we're going to see more of that and more opportunities for people to experience drone racing in person towards the end of this year and beginning of next, for sure.
That all sounds pretty exciting, Todd.
It is. It's good sport to be involved in and good fun, right? Good people too. Some of the best people I've ever met in my entire life is in this community. I mean, you can have the earringed, tatted up guy right next to the geek and nerd, and they're both high-fiving and patting each other on the back and helping each other get out on the course if they crash. So it's good stuff, without a doubt.
That's it for episode 101 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Todd Wahl of MultiGP and learning about the Drone National Championship and the Collegiate Drone Racing Championship. I want to thank Todd for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about MultiGP, the upcoming races, or you want to connect with Todd, check out the website at multigp.com. You can also search for a local drone racing club in your area on the site. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1 per month, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to patreon.com/Drone Radio Show. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Gores.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.